My name is Andrea Papp, and I'm a positive psychology practitioner and organizational happiness facilitator, founder of Happiness Digger. I am delighted to be here with all of you today. In this session, we're going to be talking about one of my favorite topics in positive psychology, the mindset. But before we start, I'd like to invite you to take 3 deep breaths with me and set an intention for the next half an hour. What would you like to achieve, or how would you like to be during this time? Yeah? So let's breathe. Breathe in and breathe out. Breathe in and breathe out. And one last time. Breathe in and breathe out. So now that we're all centered and have set an intention, we're ready to go. So the reason why mindset is one of my favorite topics is because it's a little bit like the foundation. Our mindset is the set of beliefs that shapes how we make sense of the world and ourselves. It influences how we think, feel, and behave in any given situation. That's why two people can have completely different responses to the exact same situation. And what we're after, of course, is responding as often as possible from a growth and positive mindset. Because in the workplace and beyond, operating from a growth mindset can help us move from good to great, making us more productive and fulfilled, as well as more patient, more compassionate, and ultimately happier. But before we start, one last thing, feel free to grab your workbook. You won't use it during the session, but you'll find it very useful after. Feel free to scan the QR code and download it for yourself. So, when we talk about mindset, we talk about two different types of mindset. On one hand, we have our fixed mindset, in which we believe that our abilities and skills and those of others won't change over time. On the other hand, and of course by opposition to the fixed mindset, we have our growth mindset. And when we operate from our growth mindset, of course, we believe that our abilities and skills and those of others can be developed over time. Now, let's do a quick exercise to see the two mindsets in action. May I ask you to grab pen and paper and please draw a fish. Now, I can't see your faces, but usually when I say this in a workshop, I can see panicked faces around the room. I hear comments from the participants such as, I can't draw, or oof, I'm not good at drawing, as soon as I mention the word draw. Now, feel free to share in the chat if that was you. You'll see you are not alone. And now, you might not be able to draw fish from memory or in the middle of this event, or maybe you truly are not very good at drawing, like myself, right? But what if I gave you these simple and easy instructions on how to draw a fish? Well, then I'm sure at least 90% of you would be able to draw this fish. Usually, everyone draws decent fishes in my workshops. Even I did. And if you don't believe me, feel free to take a picture of the screen and try to draw the fish after the session. I'm sure you will manage to draw a fabulous fish. So, usually, people's first thought is, I can't draw, which actually means that a significant portion of the population has a fixed mindset when it comes to drawing. Some people don't even try. Nothing ventured, nothing lost, right? Drawing, of course, it's a simple thing that for most of us doesn't really interfere in our everyday life, but we are operating from a fixed mindset. If the first thing that comes to mind is I can't, changing I can't draw to, for example, I don't know how to draw a fish makes a big difference in terms of the message that you're sending to your brain, moving you more towards a growth mindset. And if you add the word yet at the end of the sentence, I don't know how to draw a fish yet, that's when you're operating from a growth mindset. And that's the first tool I would like to share with you. Whenever something is requested of you, move more towards a growth mindset that focuses on two things: on finding the how, which suggests is possible, and on this little word, yet. Because when you add yet at the end of the sentence, it tells your brain and those around you that it's something you will figure out. It can be done and you will do it. Now, of course, it's not as simple as saying, oh, I have a growth mindset, or oh, I know someone that has a fixed mindset, because the same way that seasons sometimes mix, we too are a mix of the two mindsets. No point in denying that. Sometimes we are in one mindset and sometimes we are in the other, depending on the situation, the circumstances, and how we feel about the events going on in our lives. So, the first thing to do is to become more aware of what triggers each mindset, which situation, maybe a person, maybe a specific emotion, etc., and really recognize when it happens to you. So, I would like to invite you for a 2 minute reflection. I'd like to invite you to think about, when are you operating from a fixed mindset and when are you operating from a growth mindset? And feel free to share if you feel comfortable. I'd love to read some things in the chat, but yeah, just take some time to reflect on, when are you most likely to operate from a growth mindset, and when are you most likely to operate from a fixed mindset. Yeah. So now let's take a few minutes to tackle what is probably for most of us the number one trigger of the fixed mindset: fear of failure. In the fixed mindset, we see failure as the limit of our abilities. But failure is part of life, and yes, it can be a painful experience, even in the growth mindset. But when we can approach failure with a growth mindset and just try again, failure becomes an opportunity to learn and grow rather than the limit of our abilities. Because one of the most disempowering questions we can ask ourselves is, what if I fail? And this question is a representation of being in a fixed mindset. And this question or similar ones can keep us from simple things like maybe sharing ideas in a meeting to big things like doing our best work, being our best selves, and in general, taking risks. And when we don't take risks, indirectly, we miss opportunities. And when we move from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset, we also change our definition of success from perfection to learning. And just like that, we remove the burden of perfection and allow ourselves and others to fail and to learn. Think of it in the words of Thomas Edison, who said, I've not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work. Of course, it's not about failing 10,000 times, but you get the idea. So, being able to reframe failure is the second tool I wanted to share with you. And reframing failure is a hard thing to do. And for me, it helps to have some practical ways to help me move more towards a growth mindset and change my own perspective on failure. So here are three ways to do just that. First, instead of only tracking end results, track the effort applied, even if it didn't work out. Make the process meaningful. Celebrate your discipline. Second, when you fail, immediately record answers to these two questions. What did the experience teach you? And how will it shape your thinking, your decision making, and your actions going forward? And third, don't suffer in silence. Share your experience. You will find that others likely have had similar situations, similar experiences, and you can learn how they manage through those challenges, through those situations. So, track the effort applied. When you fail, ask yourself, what did the experience teach me, and how will it shape my thinking, my decision making, and my actions going forward? And share your experience. And now I'd like to invite you to take pen and paper and journal about a failure, anything that comes to mind. It can be also something small, doesn't have to be anything life altering. So, for the next 2 minutes, reflect on the situation and write down any thoughts that come to mind, considering, of course, the three aspects we just discussed. So, first, reflect and write down anything related to the effort and the hard work you put into it. Think about consistency, discipline, anything that you did do well in the process. Second, write down an answer to the two questions. What did the experience teach me, and how will it shape my thinking, my decision making, and my actions going forward? And third, share it with others. Feel free to share it in the chat if you feel comfortable. Alternatively, you can maybe type a message to your go to person and initiate a conversation in the topic. To be continued during the break, of course. So I'll give you these 2 minutes and please reflect and write down whatever comes to you. There is no right or wrong. And the third and last tool I would like to share with you is reframing your language. Because the language you use to speak to yourself has a huge impact on your ability to persist, stay motivated, and maintain a growth mindset. So, when talking to yourself about things you need to get done, here are two important language shifts to help you with motivation and staying in a growth mindset. First, instead of I have to or I should, say I will or I choose to, even I get to. Don't see your life as an obligation. Because when we say we have to do something, it's demotivating and reflects a negative emotional connection with whatever we are referring to. And the word should implies obligation, guilt, and maybe that we're falling short of an expectation. What you want is positive words, words that indicate intentional action, that moves you forward, which is important for a growth mindset. And remember to use the word yet I mentioned earlier. I don't know how to do this yet. Because our choice of words and how we talk to ourselves and, of course, others influences how we view ourselves and our capabilities. So, if you notice yourself sharing a sort of a limiting statement, reframe it. And if humor is one of your strengths, use it, for example, in difficult situations, because it can help reduce stress and shift your focus away from negative emotions. Let me give you an example of a situation that can be diffused with humor. Imagine you're in an important meeting and you're about to make an important point. All eyes on you, and you suddenly drop your coffee. Now, most of us automatically would say to ourselves, or maybe out loud, oh my god, I have butterfingers, or oh my god, I'm so clumsy, or maybe even, oh my god, I'm so dumb, which doesn't really help and it doesn't really contribute to making the situation any better, right? So instead, what if you said, now that I have everyone's attention, or don't worry, it's half and half on the table, half on my lap, that will probably make people laugh. Maybe the same way you're laughing right now as well. And this does benefit the situation since it's turning something negative, dropping your coffee, into something positive, laughter. So let's now practice reframing our language by reframing a limiting belief that you might tell yourself often. And we're going to do that by using the format that you see on the screen. So, first, bring to mind one limiting belief and write down this sentence. A belief that I have about myself that has held me back is maybe I'm not good enough, I'm an imposter, I don't like my voice, whatever that self limiting or negative voice is, the first one that bubbles up, just write that one down. And then, before you move to the second step, I'd like to ask you to acknowledge the truth of, well, yeah, you've been feeling this way. Yes, you have believed this. And only then I would like you to consider this simple second question. What if the opposite is true? So then I would like you to go ahead and write what the opposite is for you. So the opposite of my self belief is da da da. And third, then for the remainder of the time, I would like you to sit with the opposite thought and visualize the new belief. How does it feel? Now, full disclaimer, I know that for many this exercise will be hard to do because, of course, you believed that thought to be true and you have probably believed that for a while now. So clearly, it can't be that the opposite is true, right? But remember, these are self limiting beliefs, not realities. So, next time when one of these thoughts pops up, I hope you will at least try to play a little with it and just ask yourself, what if the opposite was true? So, now I'll give you 2 minutes for you to work on reframing your own self limiting belief. Yeah? So, as I mentioned earlier, we all find ourselves in one or the other mindset, probably even throughout the same day. But if you want to move from good to great, your best tool is to operate from a growth mindset. A mindset in which you see your strengths and those of others above weaknesses, a mindset in which you embrace challenges and persevere in the face of setbacks, a mindset in which you see opportunities and try, even if you might fail at first, a mindset in which success is not perfection but continuous learning, a growth mindset. So please mind your mindset. Thank you so much for your time, energy, and your kindness.